Hi, this is Melissa Patterson, and this is my data overview presentation for iTech 7305. This presentation was created specifically for the Biology PLC within the Science Department at Kell High School, which I'm a member of, as I am one of the freshman biology teachers as well as the AP biology teacher. There are several purposes to this presentation, namely to review demographic changes at Kell High School in the last 4 years, as well as comparing those changes to the rest of Cobb County School District, as well as the state. Reviewing the biology end of course or EOC test results and comparing those results to, again, the county and the state. And then continuing data analysis to establish effective short-term goals within the biology classroom and identify strengths and possible weaknesses or opportunities for growth within our current biology instructional landscape. Some questions to consider as we move into this data presentation. What trends can we observe in student achievement on the Georgia milestones, the EOC from 2014 to 2018? How do these trends compare to the district and state trends? What correlation, if any, is there between student attendance and other demographic data and student success on the biology test? How can data analysis impact teacher classroom practice? And how can alterations be made by teachers to affect positive change in the classroom? How can we better support those students that may be struggling, especially in the EOC? So if we look at school enrollment from 2014 to 2018, this is specifically for Kell. You can see that attendance spiked in 2014-15 as well as the 16-17 school year, going over 1,600 students. And then in the 17-18 year, we were right at 1,600 students. When we compare these numbers to the county and the state, you can see that Kell has a very small portion of both the county and the state total enrollment, but what we're really focusing on here is the fact that the numbers for all three, both for Kell, for Cobb, and for the state, have remained pretty steady over that 4-year time span. Now what we're looking at is the enrollment comparison of every Cobb County High School in 2018. You can see Kell is right here at 1,600 students. We are the smallest school in the county, with our larger schools having over 1,000 more students than we do. This has been historically a trend historically in Kell's history since it has been open since 2002, being one of, if not the smallest school in the county, as when it was opened, it drew from the population of 2 local schools to reduce their populations. Enrollment by gender, you can see that males have always outnumbered females at Kell High School, but when these numbers fluctuate, they fluctuate together. So as the number of male students drop, so do the number of female students, and then they both rise at the same time. But again, male students have always outnumbered female students at Kell. If we look in terms of race or ethnicity, we see that our white student population has dropped just slightly in that 4-year range. So did our black student population, but then our Hispanic population increased, and those students who consider them other race or ethnicity, such as multiracial or Native American, those two populations have increased over the 4-year span. If we look at race and ethnicity percentages for the 2018 school year, you can see that our white student population is just over 50% of our population. Roughly a quarter of our population are black students, and then the final quarter of the population is made up of those Hispanic students and those that identify as another race or ethnicity. If we look at economically disadvantaged and students with disabilities, those students who are considered to be economically disadvantaged make up roughly 1/3 of our student population. We had a spike, our highest percentage in the 16-17 school year. In the 17-18 school year was about 35% of the student population. And then our students with disability, those numbers, the percentages have slightly increased over this 4-year span from 13% to 16%, so a small portion of our population. Looking at our ELL students, those students who are English language learners, their numbers have increased over this 4-year time by a little over 30 students, but they only represent 5% of our overall student population. So summary of demographic data. School enrollment has remained relatively stable over the course of a 4-year span. The same goes for within the county and the state enrollment. Enrollment of both males and females has seen little change over the 4 years, with males outnumbering females. The overall diversity of Kell's population has seen some change, with a slight decrease in both of our white and black student populations and an increase in both of our Hispanic populations and those students who identify as another race or ethnicity. The percentage of students with disabilities has increased, as well as the percentage of students who are economically disadvantaged has remained pretty stable at about 30% of our, or 1/3 of our student population. And the number and percentage of ELL students have both increased, though they still remain a small portion of our population. Now, if we look at attendance rates, again, looking at these rates over a 4-year span from 2014-2015 school year to the 2017-2018 school year, what you're looking at here is the 3 different attendance kind of categories. The majority of our population missed 5 or fewer days of school in the over those 4 years. About a third of the population missed anywhere between 6 and 15 days during those school years, and about anywhere between from about 12 to 15% of our population missed more than 15 days, and they are considered chronically absent. When we break down the percentage of students with 6 or more absences, specifically looking at 2018 for the next couple of slides, here we're breaking it down between gender groups, male and female. They were roughly equal at how many times, or what percentage of that population missed 6 or more days in the school year. When we look at by race and ethnicity, it appears that race and ethnicity don't have a huge impact on number of absences, although our Hispanic population did tend to miss 6 or more absences more often than their other peer subgroups. Students with disabilities, they were just about as likely to miss 6 or more days of school than their peers without disability, so it doesn't appear as if having a disability affected attendance rates. But if we look at being economically disadvantaged, those students who are considered economically disadvantaged were more likely to miss 6 or more days of school. So this gives us an opportunity, a student subgroup to look into to identify why they're missing school and help to support their attendance at school. If we look at the graduation rates, now this is again over that 4-year span. Now we are looking at Cal graduation rates in the dark blue, Cobb in the light blue, and the state graduation rates in the green. Across all 4 years, Cal's graduation rate has always been higher than the state graduation rate. And aside from the 17-18 year, it has also been higher than the county graduation rate. But it has consistently been in the mid to high 80 percentile range. So a vast majority of our students are graduating on time in 4 years. So as a summary of the attendance and graduation rates, most Cal students are missing 5 or fewer days of school per year, and that is a trend across all 4 years that we're looking at. A large number of students in each student population are missing 6 or more days of school per year, though. Economically disadvantaged students are more likely to miss days of school than their peers. As well as we saw, Hispanic students are more likely to miss more days of school than their peers. And then Cal's graduation rate is consistently greater than that of the state, and more often than not is also greater than the overall county's graduation rate. Now we'll go into looking into the Georgia milestones, specifically the biology EOC. A little background on the EOC exam. This exam has been used since the 2014-2015 school year. It's administered to all introductory biology students and serves as a cumulative exam for all the content. It counts as 20% of the students' overall class average, and it is taken in 2 days, 2 different sections. Each section consists of roughly 35 multiple choice questions. There is no free response or short answer question or any of those questions on these exams. The test measures student achievement in the standards of biology, including the following 5 domains of cells, genetics, organisms, ecology, and evolution. When you're looking at the scoring for any of the Georgia Milestones EOCs, there are 4 levels of achievement. Level 1, the beginning learner, is a grade equivalent of 0 to 67. Level 2, developing, is 68 to 79. Level 3, proficient, 80 to 91. And level 4, distinguished, 92 to 100. So level 3 and level 4 are your typically A and B grades from an 80 to a 100. And those are really the 2 levels we'll be focusing on mostly in the rest of this presentation. First, though, we will look at the overall performance of our students for this 4-year span. You see the 4 different achievement levels here, and you can see that in this 4-year span, each bar representing a different year, the majority of our students are scoring in the proficient, that level 3 range, so scoring in the roughly B grade level range. You can see that that beginning and distinguished are sometimes on the lower end, specifically the beginning, which is good because that's the lowest level learner. But our distinguished learners, our highest level learners, tend to be a little low as well. So that is one area to look into. How can we increase the number of distinguished learners? If we look by domain mastery, so the 5 domains that were mentioned, We can see that there are, again, 3 levels within each domain of mastery: needs remediation, needs monitoring, and needs acceleration. We can see that 3 of the categories, cells, ecology, and evolution, close to the majority, close to 50% of our students scored in the needs acceleration range. That means that we are hitting those really well in the classroom. Students are understanding that material. But as far as needs remediation, we've got the cellular genetics classification, and then ecology is kind of high too. We really need to focus on the fact that a quarter of our student population needs remediation in those. I really like looking at the domain mastery percentages because it shows us really where we need to focus our deliberate instructional changes as far as how we teach the course to help those students better understand the domains that they seem to be lacking in. Now we're comparing the percentage of students who scored proficient or distinguished, again now comparing between Kel, the district, and the state. You can see that Kel, now this is levels 3 and 4, you can see that Kel, for all 4 years shown, has had a higher percentage of students scoring in the levels 3 and 4 than both the county and state. Our highest was in the 15-16 year. It did drop a little bit, 16-17, but then it began to increase again in 17-18. So we are then going to look at how can we continue to raise this percentage of students scoring in the proficient level 3 and the distinguished level 4 achievement levels. Now, if we look by gender groups, again, across the 4 years, you can see that aside from the 14-15 school year, females are slightly outperforming their male counterparts, but in the 17-18 school year, they were roughly about the same. Again, these are looking at students scoring level 3 and level 4. Then when we look at distinguished by race and ethnicity, we can see that our white students and those students who identify as other when it comes to race and ethnicity, multiracial or Native American, any of the other minorities, they are outperforming their Black and Hispanic peers. So again, this draws attention to the fact that we need to see what may be holding back the Black and Hispanic students in order to push them into the proficient and distinguished ranges of achievement. When we look by subgroup, we're looking at students with disabilities compared to their students without disability counterparts. The students with disability are faring much lower than their non-disability peers. So again, another student group that we need to focus on. How can we better support them in the classroom? Also, when we look at economically disadvantaged compared to non-economically disadvantaged, those that are economically disadvantaged are scoring at a lower achievement level than their non-disadvantaged counterparts. So these two subgroups are for us to focus on to better support in the classroom. So summary of the milestones EOC data. The majority of Cal students have scored in the proficient category, and this is across the 4-year span that we looked at. We have decreased the number of students scoring in the beginning category while increasing those in the distinguished category. Our students have consistently scored higher than both the district and state averages. Female scoring higher than male students, though we saw in the 17-18 that was barely higher than them. Minority students have not performed as well as their white peers, and those with disabilities and those who are economically disadvantaged are scoring lower than their peers. Strengths and weaknesses, kind of going along the same vein. Excuse me. Cal students continue to perform well in the milestones EOC, outperforming the district and state averages. Great strength, we are very proud of that, as well as we've reduced the number of beginning level students and increased the distinguished level students. Weaknesses is there is an achievement gap for both Black and Hispanic students, as well as students with disabilities and those who are economically disadvantaged. And the number of students scoring the distinguished level is still low in comparison to the numbers scoring the proficient level, so we would like to push students out of proficient into the distinguished, from level 3, that B grade range, to level 4, that A grade range. So current instructional strategies we use that are supporting students, helping them prepare for the EOC. We have what's called LEAP tutoring that is offered twice a week before and after school. That is free tutoring that is provided by biology teachers. Students are welcome to come to. usatestprep.com is a test prep site that is aligned with the biology EOC and with all other EOCs. Use of remediation or help sessions during school. This is called our LASSO time. It happens 3 days a week, and it's a 30-minute time period where students can come for extra help during the school day. We have a take-home review test that students take that's optional and we go over in the school day. Then we have what's called the EOC boot camp that happens before and after school, the week before the exam. So questions to lead us into some further discussion. What additional specific strategies can teachers employ to assist those subgroups who fall behind their peers? How can students who are most at risk be effectively supported both in and out of the classroom? And how can biology teachers support those students scoring the proficient rating to move them up into the distinguished rating? Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope this kind of leads the biology PLC into a working range of how we can better support these students.